Hi, Virgo. Happy New Year. This is for Virgo, Sun, Moon, and Rising signs. I'm Susan. If this is your first time, then welcome and welcome back. If you're a regular viewer, I appreciate you coming and listening to my videos and watching and liking and all of your comments. I really do appreciate it. So I just wanted to do an overview. It's too much really to contain an entire year in one video. It's a lot to cover, and there will be nuances that are going to be filled out as the year goes on. So you'll appreciate that as a Virgo because it's difficult to know sometimes the directions that things will take. Interpretations are always based on what is already happening and what has gone before. And as a result, it's difficult to really forecast with any clarity into the future, especially for things like the eclipses or surprising events like what we're having with the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction. But I'll do my best to give you an overview of things that you really need to pay attention to as we go through 2024. You might like to note some dates and have a sense of what is coming up so that you can prepare. And if it's relevant to your chart, then it will really stand out in your life, especially for a Virgo rising. And then, of course, for the sun and the moon, you'll feel that in terms of how you navigate your life, what you feel your purpose is. And the moon is more about how you feel, how you sense your life, or how you think about things. So you'll have more information in the video description below. And there's some links also to give you more details into the outer planet transits that we're having, because I can't contain it all in here. So Virgo, Sun, Moon, and Rising, we are having quite the year for you, where you have quite a lot of change in your relationship sector. And in your work sector. So those are the two really strong themes of this year for you. Let's begin with Pluto that's just moved into your sixth house. And Pluto moves into Aquarius along with the sun at the 21st of January. And so when Pluto moves there, it's going to be impacting your everyday life. So the way that you know your life now is going to change. That means the way that you engage in day-to-day habits, what's important for you, what your priorities are. This can include health issues. If health is a little bit wobbly for anybody with the Virgo Sun, Moon, or Rising, this is really important for you to take care of. That's over 20 years, so it's not necessarily going to be 20 years of bad health. It's going to be affecting you in different ways according to what's happening in the rest of your natal chart. It's not because Pluto goes into the sixth that you might have bad health, but it will change your relationship to health nonetheless. And so that can show up in different ways for different people. You might become, for example, really motivated to work in the health and healing industry, which is anyway part of your motivation. Or you might get motivated to do something like teaching about those more profound areas of life in terms of health and healing. If it's more to do with your day-to-day work, then this will change how you show up in work. So your sign ruler, Mercury, is not only ruling your first house, but also your 10th house of work. And Pluto is trining that. So follow Mercury carefully as the year goes on and notice where things are changing for you as Mercury is changing. And that will give you extra clues in terms of how this Pluto is going to show up for you in the sixth house. So there's a link below to my Pluto All Signs video for Pluto in Aquarius, and you'll get more information there. But just to say that Pluto goes in 2 degrees into your sixth house. So especially the early part of Aquarius and then the late part of Capricorn are going to be affected. This doesn't affect you directly. Obviously, it'll affect other planets in your chart outside of Virgo, but this is the sixth house. And so indirectly, it's going to provoke some kind of need for you to revise how you live day to day. It'll shake up all kinds of areas of life that can include things around relationships, around your work relationships, business or colleagues or employees, for example. And also in terms of the sixth house, it can be anything that feels like an obstacle that you need to overcome. And so Pluto, when it goes through the sixth, can really provoke psychologically as well a need for you to gain courage, to gain a sense of what the fortitude, let's say, the fortitude that you need to go through things. And this will bring you a lot of strength in terms of your career. So however you work through this Pluto in the sixth house, it's going to change the way you show up in your career or in your social status. In the 10th house, that's the recognition or the social status that you have, or your ambitions. And so Pluto's actually quite powerful for that 10th house. It can really bring you some extra strength in terms of the money that you earn from your income, as well as the job that you do. So that contains a retrograde. It's going to retrograde on the 2nd of May. And it will retrograde at 2 degrees of Aquarius. So it's new in the 1st and 2nd degree of Aquarius this year. Last year, it got up to the first half of Aquarius. So remember, from March 23rd until about the 11th of June, we had Pluto in the 6th house, just at the very, very beginning. So if you have a really, really early placement in especially in the air signs, but also potentially in the fire signs, you may have felt this very, very strongly. Otherwise, for Virgo, it would be felt in a much more oblique way, a little bit less obvious. Pluto is stationing direct on the 11th of October, and it's actually going to be moving back into Capricorn on the 2nd of September. So at that point, if you have late degree placements in Virgo, so 29 degree, but even you could go back to 28 or even 27 of Virgo, that's going to be trining your sign. So that might still affect you yet, as it goes back from September, October, and up until the 24th of November. So that's just kind of a check-in. Don't worry so much about that. It's kind of looking in to see how you're doing. That's in the area of creativity, your love affairs, children, how you express yourself, potentially around also your entrepreneurial energy, if you work in any kind of entrepreneurial way, which you, Virgo, are very good at doing. So you might be doing that. So also in February, then we have Chiron conjunction in your 8th house with the North Node, what we also call Rahu. And that 8th house conjunction, it's pretty strong all the way through February, but it's beginning already pretty much at the beginning of the year. We're starting to feel this building up. And the degree points are really powerful between 15 and 19 degrees of Aries. Here again, this is something that's more oblique to you. It's behind the scenes, but it's coming through a way that you feel, especially. It can be an unconscious process, or it can be about your earlier life or family issues that you may have had to encounter, issues around your own sense of self, or your genuine sense of well-being, mental, physical, emotional well-being, especially because Pluto's in the 6th and then Chiron in the 8th. There's some real opportunities for healing that. And so this degree point between 15 and 19 is very significant between January and April, because although the two planets join, or they're not even both planets, neither of them are planets. In fact, one is an asteroid, and the North Node is an estimated mathematical point in the sky. So neither of them are planets, but I feel they have great significance in a person's natal chart. And so that exact conjunction is happening on the 19th of February at 16 degrees 45 of Aries. And so this is something that you might feel very, very strongly in the midweek of February, sort of mid to the second half of February. And that's really going to impact your sense of healing and overcoming perhaps childhood issues or issues of self-esteem, things that you realize from earlier in life, or from the unconscious, unawares aspects of yourself, the things that are unaware in your sense of why things are not necessarily working out in terms of how you might be intimate with other people, or where you might fear intimacy, or where things are difficult in terms of sharing your life with someone or sharing things with someone. That kind of thing can show up in a way that is very healing. So it comes to your attention either through an event or through an awareness, and then you are able to move through that and heal that. So there, I think February will be very significant for you. It is around intimacy that can include emotional, sexual, psychological intimacy. It's also in an area of what we call the occult or the mystical side of life. The eighth house is all of those things that come through the mystery of life. And so there also might be a revelation of your own capacity to heal coming from an old way of knowing, sort of old way of being in another lifetime or in an earlier frame of reference where you actually are awakened to your healing skills or your interpretive skills or your psychic skills. This of course depends very much on your natal chart, so it's not for everybody, but that's one way that this healing can take place. And so that's a significant month. February is a significant month, and we'll talk about how later on in April that becomes really important as well. So in March, we have a lunar eclipse, a penumbral lunar eclipse in your second house of money. And that's about your money that you earn. So it's your income. It can also be your assets or things that you've invested in. It can also be around your family. For example, the family or the people that sustain you, whatever supports and sustains you. And this can be also your house of values, what you value, what you find important, your own sense of self-worth as well. And with the South Node moving through there and the eclipse happening with the moon there on the 25th of March, that's something that you really want to pay attention to in terms of your own awareness of your self-worth and to what extent you might not be taking care of yourself, or you might not be appreciating yourself, or you might not be giving all that you can in terms of your personal value. And also with the South Node there in the money house, it might be that you lose a sense of what is important around money. You change your feelings around money. You may have a sense that you just change your frame of reference in terms of money or valuables. It can also be that you literally lose a source of income. Now, that's something I would have to see in a natal chart. There's so many different other things that would have to happen for that to happen. But with Pluto moving through the sixth house, we see that your day-to-day work life and your day-to-day habits are changing. The second house represents also an aspect of your health. It's how you consume things. It's how you eat, how you consume anything that in this case supports your physical body through food, for example. So that might need to change. As Pluto goes in your sixth, you might start to realize, I need to eat differently. I need to take care of my body in a new way, a different way. And then in April, we have a total solar eclipse. Now that brings us back to your eighth house, and that's happening at 19 degrees, and that's exactly conjunct Chiron. So at the beginning of 2024, we have the North Node at 19 degrees and Chiron at 15 degrees. And at the time of this 8th of April eclipse, we have Chiron at 19 degrees along with the sun and the moon, and the North Node at 15 degrees. And so this is really significant in terms of this potential for these degree points within your eighth house to be really highlighted, as well as anything to do with your fire signs. So that's your 11th house. That's your your 11th house, the water signs by square. So the cardinal signs, Cancer, Libra, Capricorn, and Aries are all affected by square. And then the water signs by trine. So your 12th house, your third house, and of course the eighth house. So anything around those degree points will be really significantly impacted. So you can give it 2 degrees, maybe 3 degrees on either side of that. So look for anything between sort of 13 to 21, 22 degrees of Aries or those signs that I mentioned. So it's pretty intense, but it's happening for you in that house of intimacy, marriage, personal transformation. This, in your case, it's transformation through a lot of healing and self-awareness. So it's about Aries. You have a massive stellium in there at the same time as this eclipse. And so there will be an enormous amount of awareness and motivation for change with all of that happening there. And at the same time, your ruler Mercury is retrograde in that 8th house from the 1st of April all the way through the 25th. And so there's going to be a lot of contemplation, recognition, awareness of yourself and your own role in how you feel, your own role in how you heal, and how you might relate to other people intimately. So a very big thing, but I think most of the certainly Virgo risings and perhaps most other people with a lot of Virgo will be feeling this more intimately, feeling this more inside. So it won't be as notable, as noticeable for other people. And if you need help, if you need support, be sure to ask for it, Virgo, because it's not your strength to ask for support. You tend to be the one to give it. So don't forget that you have the right and the capacity to ask for support if you need it around these times, because there's a lot that is personally changing for you. I don't think this is necessarily negative, but it just can be, at times feeling a little wobbly because there's a lot that's going on that makes you feel that you are changing so fast that it's hard to grapple with that. Luckily, you're a mutable sign, and so you're able to go with the flow. But don't expect a specific outcome. That's the best way to go with this. Don't expect anything particular to happen. Think of it as a process of things happening. It's not going to happen boom bang on the day, but surely April will be a significant month for you. Then later in April, on the 21st, we have a conjunction of Jupiter and Uranus in your 9th house, which is a very lucky house, a very beautiful, harmonious energy. When Jupiter's up there, Jupiter absolutely loves the 9th house. It's all about expansion, wisdom, growth, seeing bigger perspectives on your life. You could have an incredible flash of insight. Jupiter and Uranus are conjoined exactly on the 21st at 21 degrees and 50 minutes of Taurus. And that's in a trine to your 1st house. But basically all through April, you've got this energy, this Jupiter and Uranus energy. So while we've got all of that big time energy in your 8th house, you've got a lot of big time energy in your 9th house, which is about what am I going to do with this? So on the one hand, you've got this processing of the 8th house coming from deep inside or coming from your intimate life, potentially with a partner. And now in the 9th house, it's like, well, what do I make of this now? How do I see myself reaching out into the world? And this is about growing in your self-understanding in such a way that when Jupiter moves into your 10th house, which is going to do on the 25th of May, then you're able to really seize the moment and express yourself publicly, where you have this opportunity to show up in a different way, in a more expansive way, in a lucky way around your work. And so it's a big year for you. You're going to grow in the public eye. You're going to grow in the sense of what you're here for. You're going to grow in ways that allow you to really expand your range of contribution. So a very beautiful few months in the beginning of the year for you. Not always easy because it's coming from deep inner transformation. You have to be honest with yourself. Now, one of the things that you'll need to be really honest with is with Saturn in the 7th house, really overcoming any sense of victim martyr mentality. This can be something that we see in that Virgo Pisces axis. And when Saturn is there in the 7th house, you can find that there is this, at times, this feeling of being cast away or not having any friends or feeling a little bit lonely, feeling that your friends might be abandoning you or that you are ready to abandon your friends, that you're feeling like this is not working for me anymore. But with Saturn there, it actually is going to be an opportunity for you to bring in lasting friendships and quality friendships, people that really are worth your time and effort. You've had Neptune in the 7th house since the beginning of 2011. So you've been taking in quite a lot of strays. It's kind of what you do, Virgo. And probably encountering a lot of people that have not been really helpful to you, or that you've maybe felt yourself kind of wasting time, losing time with, or over giving. There's maybe this feeling of so much investment in the other person that you feel like, almost like, when do I actually get to show up in this relationship? When am I going to be seen in relationship? Saturn is going to be part of that. Saturn is going to be part of helping you get clear, helping you realize that there are people that deserve your support. As the saying goes, you separate the needy from the greedy, and you start to realize that I know is a complete sentence. Pluto going through the sixth house will help you to learn that no is a complete sentence as well. And recognizing that you are your worthiness, your worth, where the nodal axis is between the eighth and the second house, is going to show you who should really be in your life. This is very important as Jupiter is moving across the top of your chart, so you're going to be able to meet important people, influential people, and I don't mean like necessarily important as in rich or famous. I mean people who are important to you, because Jupiter is ruling your seventh house of relationships. And as it's moving across your chart, it's bringing in some real revelations or some real support from other people. So Saturn in the seventh house is going to go up to 19 degrees, and then it's going to retrograde from 19 degrees. So in 2024, it goes between 3 and 19 degrees. And in that process, it's going to have a new transit from basically 7 or 8 degrees up to the 19th degree. So again, if you have any planets or placements between, let's say, even 1 or 2 degrees of Virgo and 20, 21, 22 degrees of Virgo, this is most of the sign really that you are going to be influenced by opposition, by Saturn opposing you. So there's going to be a real moment of becoming serious, showing up in a serious way, connecting with people in a lasting and serious way. People who you connect with when Saturn is in the seventh, or the people who you sort out when Saturn is in the seventh, will be lasting. It's quality. It brings you something that is useful in the long term to you, that you might know people that you connect with when Saturn is in the seventh for years and years and years to come. So this is a worthwhile focal point for you. The relationship axis, the work axis are coming together in a way that's really helpful for you in 2024 and 2025 for that matter too. So, but we'll leave that for next year. So speaking of which, Jupiter is ingressing your 10th house. Now, before it does that, Jupiter will be conjunct Venus on the 23rd of May. It's conjunct the Sun on the 24th of May, and then it's moving into your 10th house on the 25th of May. And at the same time, around the 24th of May, Jupiter is also sextiling Neptune. So there's a lot of energy that is coming from your 7th into your 10th and vice versa. So Jupiter rules your 7th house, remember, and it's going through your 10th house. And so there's a lot that you want to think in terms of, who do I partner up with? How does my partner influence my status or my work or my career ambitions, my personal goals, how I show up in society? Jupiter will give you loads of opportunities around that. With Jupiter in your 9th and then in your 10th, if you're working in academic circles, or if you're studying, or if you're producing something of research, or by the way, Chiron in the 8th, North Node in the 8th, great for research as well. But as long as you're working through that 9th, 10th house with Jupiter there, it can be really fantastic for earning a diploma, a degree, higher learning, higher education, understanding life in the higher sense, in the sense of what is life and what do I believe, what do I have faith in. And so this is a very empowering cycle. Now, when Jupiter moves into your 10th house, that's extremely beneficial. It's in an angular house, therefore really powerful for you. And that is a square to your first house, opposition to the 4th, and a square to the 7th. And so that brings a lot of attention to you personally. It allows you to really experience things in a way that makes you grow personally, grow especially in a social way, growing in your career or in your social status, but also reflects back on your home life, your way of experiencing yourself, your happiness, your foundations in life, and of course your relationship, which is significant. So Jupiter for you rules not only the 7th, but also the 4th. And so I think if you have been going through a low patch, or you have been going through a moment of doubt, especially as Jupiter has been retrograde since September 3rd, 4th of 2023, up until the very end of 2023, if that has been a low period, I think from now into especially into the April, May period, you're really going to feel yourself taking off. It's going to be a completely different energy for you. And also that period of the summer is when Saturn and Neptune start to get really tight. Basically June, July, there's about a 10-degree orb, and mostly through the summer, there's about a 10-degree orb of conjunction between the two of them. So they never get really close. That's as close as they get in 2024, but it's a preparation, if you like, for 25 and 26, early 26, when they do actually conjunct in your 8th house. So that's something to bear in mind as well. We also have a Mercury retrograde, your ruler. Mercury is retrograde in your sign and in Leo. So it goes back and forth between your 12th house, Leo, and your 1st house. So there's something here again that's pulling in, and that's from the 5th until the 28th of August. So that'll be around your birthday for some of you. For the early Virgo natives, it's going to be for some of you, and then you'll have Mercury in your 1st house after that. So this is a really key thing when Mercury stations retrograde in your own sign, in its sign, not only of rulership but exaltation. So there's a lot that you're reworking here. There's a lot that you're digesting about your life, about what you believe, about what you feel. All of these things coming through very, very personally for Virgo this year. A fantastic year for growth, really. So by the time let's say the end of August, as you move into September, you're really going to expand in new and very different ways. And especially because also at the beginning of September, the 4th of September, then we have Mars going into your 11th house. Mars is dynamic. It's going to create a certain dynamism in terms of your local groups and communities. Mars rules your 3rd and your 8th house. And it's going to have you feeling much more energized around your future, around your goals and your hopes for the future. I will certainly pick up on this theme again as the year progresses, because it's an important transit, because this one lasts for seemingly ever. Mars is going through Cancer until basically November. When did it is going to be yeah, until the late November. I've forgotten exactly the date. Sorry about that. But it goes right into Leo, and it stations at 6 degrees of Leo on the 5th of December. So we had a full moon in January. On the 25th of January, there's a Leo full moon in your 6th and 12th house axis. So the sun is in the 6th, conjunct Pluto, and the full moon is in your 12th. 25th of January. Now, when Mars comes in 5th of December, now at the end of 2024, when Mars comes into your 12th house, it's going to station at that point. So whatever is going on in terms of your health, in terms of your workday, in terms of your everyday understanding, or your spiritual understanding of your role in life, or this can also be connected to ancestors, for example, or faraway places, especially with Jupiter in the 9th. This can be something to do with isolation or retreating or traveling to faraway lands. Any of those things are possible for you, Virgo. I would have to see your natal chart to figure that one out. But this will tie in January to December. So take a note of what's going on in January and then see what comes up for you in December. You can have a better sense of what to expect at that point. So this 11th house and 12th house are really significant, where Mars is moving through basically Mars in Cancer from September all the way through April. So with the exception of the period of time that it's in Leo, so almost 7 months in Cancer. And then it's going back into Leo and staying there until the beginning of June. So we're looking at a really, really long time where Mars is kind of putting a lot of emphasis on, what do I want for the future? How do I feel about that? How do I express that? How do I deal with all these hidden aspects of my psyche, or hidden aspects of my desire nature? Or potentially also, how do I sabotage my own desires for the future? How do I mess that up in some way? Is it for how I speak? Is it how I show up? Is it how I commit or find it difficult to commit? So any of those things, but we would have to see your natal chart to know that. Now we also have our very first eclipse in the Pisces Virgo axis. So this is really important for you, Virgo. This is happening in the 25th degree of your first house, if you're a Virgo rising, or if you have your sun or moon around that 25, give or take 3 degrees or so of Virgo. And of course, it's happening in your 7th house of relationship. The moon will be there with Neptune at this time. So a very, very significant start to a new cycle of eclipses. So we're still with the nodes in the Aries and Libra axis until January 2025. But after mid-January 2025, they move into the Virgo Pisces axis. So if you're sitting, waiting and thinking, I will never have a relationship, nobody loves me, I have cooties and nobody cares about me, you're going to, that will, with Saturn going through there, resolving all the different issues that you might have around boundaries and dealing with people in relationships, with Jupiter going over the top of your chart, and then with the North Node going into your 7th house, get out the door and you will absolutely find yourself in a relationship in 2025. I'm not saying you have to wait until then. I'm just saying that's the likelihood, again, depending on your chart, but there's a very strong likelihood with a number of those indicators supporting you, especially as Jupiter is in the sign of Gemini, which is another Mercury ruled sign, and it's squaring your first house. So it's often a sign of a new important relationship coming into your life. So let's have a look here again. We have then we have the next eclipse. So that was on the 18th of September. We have the first Pisces eclipse. Then the next eclipse goes back into the axis of Aries and Libra. So the nodes themselves never leave the axis of Aries and Libra. It's just that the sun and moon are leaving. And so we have this kind of tie-in between the 7th and 8th house and the 1st and 2nd house on the other side. So there's definitely another big energy for you as Libra is highlighted, where the sun and the moon are coming into your 2nd house on the 2nd of October, and that's at 10 degrees of Libra, and that's conjunct your ruler Mercury. So it's a South Node conjunction. So that's where you might find that there's something really significant and personal to you that you're letting go in terms of your values, potentially money or stuff, belongings that you have, or your attachment to certain belongings, the way that you are in relationship, the way that you relate financially to a loved one, or in terms of a business. All of that is subject to change. And again, I would have to see your natal chart to be able to understand that, and the qualities of Venus and Mars in your chart as well. So just take a note of that, because it's a really important date, 2nd of October, around the 10 degree mark for this Libra eclipse, an annular eclipse, which means that there's a ring of fire around the sun, around the moon, which is blocking out the sun, but incompletely. They're very pretty. And then, so of course, then we have Pluto just after that eclipse stationing direct at the 29 degrees Capricorn part of your chart. And then because we've got that Mars in your 11th house, then from the 11th to the 5th house, you're going to have Mars opposite Pluto. Something can come up in terms of your desire for the future, or your creativity, or a love relationship, or issues around friendship. If there's any, you're not a super gambly kind of person, but if there's anything around gambling, this can be provocative, we'll say. I don't dare say either way how that will turn out for you. Venus is in Sagittarius at that point, so in your 4th house, and she's in opposition to Jupiter at 20 degrees. At the same time as that Mars-Pluto opposition. So that's quite significant, because that's your 10th and 4th house aspect. So the beginning of November is really important, probably around career, money, how you're investing. Venus in the 4th feels comfortable, feels good. This might be that you meet somebody. There might be some kind of spark that you meet somebody. But if you meet somebody with Pluto opposite Mars, please make an appointment with me, because we would need to see how that pans out. That can turn sexual passion into really serious abuse patterns. So just saying, and that's of course not everybody's story, but just saying. Where are we here? So we have that Jupiter square. Jupiter's very significant for you, remember, in square to Saturn, which it's ruling from your 10th to your 7th. And we have two squares. We have one that's happening in August, the 19th of August, at the 17 to 18 degree point. Now that's going to be something that requires a little bit of focus. Jupiter is conjunct Mars, so there might be something significant happening in terms of your career, a new opportunity. But that opportunity might come from something feeling like you have to make a sacrifice, you have to make a choice, you have to decide between things, or you have to really make a ruckus to make it happen. Again, I'd have to see your chart, but in December, we have another Jupiter square Saturn, this time with Saturn direct at 14 degrees, 14 of Gemini, 14 of Pisces. And so you can add a couple of degrees, maybe 2-3 degrees on either side of that. And so if you have planets or placements around that sort of 11 to 17-ish degrees, that's going to be very impactful for you. But it can feel a little bit like pushing and pulling. It's difficult. So you need to prioritize. You might feel really compelled to overpromise. Be careful of that. You might feel like you're really compelled to work hard. Be careful with Pluto in the 6th house. That can lead to burnout, especially with Jupiter in the 10th house. So actually the Jupiter squaring Saturn can actually rescue yourself from yourself if that is a pattern that you're entering into. So I think that's it for you now, Virgo. This is an interesting year of self-development, an interesting year of relating to people, growing in relationships, and it's definitely going to be a year where you're noticed publicly. So make the best of the inner work that's going to make you feel strong and confident to take it out onto the streets. So wishing you a great 2024, and I'll see you in the next video.